Hey, J.C Agajanian here, broker associate with eXp, top grossing agent with the Whissel Realty Group, summarizing for you the mastermind that the Fast Forward Network put together for us each week. Let's get straight into it.
Good morning. Happy Monday. It's time for another Monday Morning Mastermind recap with the Fast Forward Movement. And today we are covering a couple interesting topics. First of all, working with investors. How are we going to track these people down? How are we going to find them? And what are we going to say to them? Secondly, time management. How are we going to make sure that we are productive with our time and so that we can get more done when we are working? So we're going to get started off with the non-owner occupied search and working with investors with a couple of good services that were mentioned in our group. One of them is called Audantic. Apparently it's not the cheapest one in the world, but it's a great service built by data scientists that really digs in and gives you just the information that you need. There's another one called Deal Machine, which is a company that sends out personalized postcards, not just to you, but personalized to the client and with an actual photo of their home. It sounded pretty powerful when it was described to us. The general idea that we talked about in the beginning of this conversation about working with investors is to take typical investor activities and use them with retail messaging. So instead of maybe sending some sort of distress type thing where you're cash money guy and blah blah blah, you approach the same people with a more retail approach. We're going to get your home sold for the most amount of money. We're going to have the best service, that type of thing. Other places you can get information from, of course, you're going to lean on your title rep. You can also use the tax roll and then just prospect through it. Of course, Property Stream and Property Radar are there as well. But those are services that you actually pay the title company a little bit extra above and beyond just a simple list for them to plug in the actual phone numbers and emails to include with that data set that you can use. And then, as we've talked about, almost every single mastermind, use a service like HomeBot, which is going to automatically update your clients about the value of their home, about the comps that have sold recently, and it's all going to be branded to yourself, and it's plug and play. You don't have to do anything about it. It's a great tool to add as another layer in any field that you're working, whether it's past clients, whether it's investors like in this subject, or whether it's just a typical farm that you're going after. Use a service like HomeBot. It's fantastic and money well spent. There's another service called Everybody Answers that provides non-owner occupied data, and you can use that to do the same thing, flow it into HomeBot or CoreFact, or use it with your marketing pieces. If you can find some property managers that are not also realtors that sell property, they are, of course, going to be great partners as well. And when you're communicating with non-owner occupied home investors, usually they may not be an institutional type investor on a big scale, but they are someone who has property rented out. So they're going to be more business minded. They're going to be more focused on the numbers. So serve them options and information related to ROI, 1031 exchanges, tax strategies, etc. These are the types of conversations they're probably going to be more interested in having, as opposed to fit and finish on a countertop or something like that. So another area that you could focus on for finding absentee owners is those college areas. Find the college town near you and dig in. You can, use any one of these systems or your title rep that we mentioned to target owners who are living at least 60 miles or farther away from this property that you're looking at, and go after them as well. One thing I'd never heard of was, I'm aware of Section 8, of course, but I've never heard of the website gosection8.com, which is actually there to service people looking for housing for Section 8 properties. But we can use it for a different purpose, which I thought was ingenious, in finding properties that are eligible for Section 8. And those people are going to be, now you go backwards. Now you find the owner of those properties that are listed on the website, figure out how to track them down, hit them with the same messaging that's going to be appropriate to them. I thought that was a great idea to find properties and go backwards to go back, get a hold of them. And now you know that there's a property they're renting out, and it shortcuts different ways of finding non-owner occupied people. Another site that actually provides the same service is called socialserve.com, so you can check that out as well. A different approach that someone brought up in our conversation was the idea of targeting the tenant of this non-owner occupied property, or this absentee owner, as a buyer with a rent versus buy flyer. Demonstrate the differences, the benefits of actually owning as opposed to renting all the time. And then maybe you get some buyers out of it. And best case scenario, maybe you can backdoor into contact with that landlord and then maybe help them as well. I thought it was another creative and thoughtful strategy to get a hold of absentee owners. And in this case, probably pick up some purchase business while you're at it. Final note on the subject. The most difficult people to reach are usually the easiest ones to sell. So I'm telling you that juice is worth the squeeze. Go out and find them. If they're elusive, they've got numbers that are no good, they really do a good job staying off the grid, track them down, and you could be their best friend. Moving on to time management. Well, of course, sticking your schedule and when to do what is hugely important. But knowing what to do and blocking that time out on your calendar, it's not really the hard part. The hard part is sticking to it, and it's a matter of accountability and prioritization. So, first of all, we should always be planning for tomorrow today. Make your calendar up, pick the most important 3 things you're going to do, when you're going to do them, and just say these 3 things. I think that I'm just not leaving my office until at least these things get done today. If you have 1 to 3 things like that are top priority for each day, that alone will exponentially improve your productivity in your business. When you're working, be deliberate and intentional with the task in front of you. Don't be trying to multitask all the time and allowing yourself to be distracted. Just because the phone rings doesn't mean it needs to be answered. If you're in the middle of something important, just finish that and get back to the person as soon as you can. Same thing goes with emails, text messages, or people knocking at your door in the office, whatever the case may be. Be deliberate and intentional with the task in front of you. Don't allow yourself to be distracted. I hope you're aware of time blocking. If you're not, there's a billion resources on it with a 3-word Google search. You can figure it out. But when you're time blocking, just work on what you're working on right now. And, an important distinction that was made by one of our fellow agents in the group was that you doing follow-up calls on old leads is not prospecting. That may hurt for you to hear that right now, but it's true. Prospecting is new business generation. Follow-up is follow-up. So be aware of that as you move forward. Working in blocks, just be aware you're going to need to grab some water. You take bathroom breaks. Work 50 minutes and take 10 off. It helps you clear your head a little bit as well. Shift gears, move on to the next project. Be diligent about your time when you're working. It's important to identify the primary sources of business for you and then the techniques that you're going to use to reach those people in that primary source of business. And then you want to apply KPIs or key performance indicators to help you know whether or not what you're doing is working to reach those people. So utilize VAs, utilize a local in-person assistant to help you leverage your time and focus on those dollar productive activities. You've got to figure out really how to make prospecting specifically, but anything else that's top priority for you, a non-negotiable in your calendar. The same way it would be for you to be caring for your kids or the same responsibility you take with your faith or something like that. You've got to make this that important that what you've written down here, that how you're going to handle your day is going to get done and you're not going to blow it off. When we do that, not only are we less effective and less efficient with our time, but we're also kind of subliminally lying to ourselves. We're telling, hey, I was going to do that, but now I'm blowing it off. I'm not doing it. I mean, if that was somebody else saying to us that they're going to do something and then they blew us off, we would feel bad about it. So why would we do that to ourselves? Let's think about the subconscious as well as the conscious of what we're doing. So as a general, lots of great tips and ideas of how to make yourself stick to your calendar. Some practical tips. Use an alarm. Stack your appointments back to back so they can't go long and they can't go over. As far as projects and organizing things, use a doing, done board. There's a million great topics and things you can find on that as well as far as a quick Google, and it's a great tool for the basics of project management. So some practical tips. Use an alarm. Notify yourself when you're going over your time. Stack your appointments back to back so that you can't go long because you've got somebody waiting for you next. And as far as project management goes and organizing the things you're trying to get done, use a do, doing, done board. It's the very basics of any project management, and it's a great tool. You can check that out with a quick Google search as well. Other practical tips. One of our members actually said that he paid somebody to show up at his house. He must have had a real hard time getting out of bed. He paid someone to show up at his house, wake him up early, get him on task. He did for 3 years. She would wake him up, make him breakfast, and make sure he gets out the door on time. And then later on, he hired a college student for, I don't know what the hourly was, something cheap on an hourly basis. And she would be there at the start of the day at the office, and she'd be, prepping the CRM, some tasks for him to do. And if he showed up late, he had already given her instructions to pay herself $100 and bail for the day. So I thought that was a really interesting practical tip that you could use if you're really struggling to get yourself accountable for your time. I'll leave you with a more psychological as opposed to a practical approach. There's a guy named Joe Turco, a killer in the business back on the East Coast, and he's actually a 2-time cancer survivor. He spent 17 years in hospital beds in his life. Think about that. So he was just like, listen, guys, you got to look at things in reverse. We only have so much time, so much opportunity to spend with our family, with our friends, with our loved ones, and we only have so much time to get work done. And if you really acknowledge how brief our time on earth here is in general, let alone how little amount of time we have during the working hours to get things done, to accomplish all the goals that we've written out for ourselves, you've got to allow that to bring about a tenacity when you go to work and to realize how much you need to accomplish, because there really is so little time in general. So hopefully that's a little bit motivational for you as well at the end here. That's going to wrap up our mastermind for the day. As always, I hope you found it helpful and that there is something you can implement into your business. And if you'd like to join us for a live mastermind yourself, I can get you an invitation. Just send me a DM. Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. I hope you found it valuable and that there's something in there that you can implement into your business today. If you'd like more information, I'd love to be a resource for you. I'd also love to connect you with the Mastermind directly if you'd rather see that instead of catching my recaps. And if you're interested in joining the Fast Forward Network, DM me here and I'll hook you up. Talk to you soon.